mate.
Thank you very much. Actually, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Hello, nice to see you, and welcome back to another episode of Gone Feral.
This week, we have two films to share with you, starting with one about us trying something slightly different. There are plenty of ways to have fun here in Scotland.
You can engage with the locals,
Oh god, they're coming closer. Lock the doors. Hurry, lock the doors, lock the doors.
or experience the local culture.
Excuse me, what exactly is this?
It's tin tigers.
How do I eat it?
Or you can participate in the national sport.
Okay, in all seriousness, we're here to try and get photos of something that neither of us have ever photographed before. Pine martens.
As per natural history storytelling guidelines, we have to show you some nice aerial footage first before revealing what the animal looks like. This is Scotland, by the way, where the vast majority of pine martens in the UK live. Aha, we're getting closer now, in amongst the trees. This is where martins love it. And this blue tit is here because we ran out of tree footage. Now this is where our beautifully crafted sequence falls apart because now we're at a barn. But this is a pine marten. Although most martens enjoy woodland environments, they are very adaptable, and the cosy nooks and crannies in this old barn are as good as any ancient woodland oak for sheltering in. Pine martens are mustelids, in the same family as badgers and weasels. They're about the same size as a small domestic cat, with a long tail to help them balance as they run along branches and walls in search of food, mainly eggs, insects, and small mammals. There are only about 4,000 individuals in the UK, and this female was filmed a while ago by our camera operator, Scott, but has since disappeared. So we're on the lookout for new martens to try and photograph.
So over the last few weeks, we've had some of these trail cameras out throughout this woodland to try and see if any pine martens are here.
We collected the trail cams and bingo! Oh wait, no, bugger. Just a tawny owl. Some distant dark footage could be pine martens, but it's very uncertain. This is a bit better, but still, it could just be a massive squirrel. What we need is a well-lit close-up to be 100% sure.
Yeah, we still can't be 100% sure that this is definitely a pine marten, but here at Gone Feral we are risk takers, so we decided it was worth a punt. So, over to you, Harry, to explain whether we're going to photograph these in the way we usually photograph wildlife.
We aren't going to photograph them in the way we would usually photograph wildlife, with a long lens. That's because pine martens are incredibly shy, and to be honest, if we tried approaching them, it just wouldn't work. So instead, we're going to use a technique called camera trapping, which is where we'll leave our cameras on their own to hopefully get some photos without us here to disturb them. The basic setup involves a camera with a wide-angle lens, a sensor, and some flashes. We're using wide-angle lenses to try and capture a lot of the environment in our photos too, to give the images more context.
To trigger the cameras, we're using these. Now these are PIR sensors, and it's actually quite interesting how they work, right? So they've got two pyroelectric...
Right, Ed, nobody cares. Basically, they sense when an animal appears and then trigger the camera to take a photo.
Camera trapping is a discipline in itself. However, like all types of wildlife photography, it is of paramount importance that the welfare of the animal takes priority over getting a photograph. Now, we are going to be using flashes, so we've taken a couple of necessary precautions to make sure that we're not harming any of the wildlife here. So firstly, we're only going to be doing this for a few nights, so any animals that do frequent the area will only be subjected to the flashes for a few evenings at most. And the second thing we've done is to make sure we're using the flashes on their lower power setting. That means they should mimic some other sources of light that the animals here might encounter anyway, like lightning strikes and headlights from cars on the nearby country roads.
Ethics lesson over, it was now time to set up our traps. Tupperware camera plate boy went first.
So I've chosen to set my camera up here, just near this lovely log, and I'm looking up at the deciduous forest, loads of dead wood, and I'm hoping that a pine marten will just run into frame into the composition. I need you to be nice and low, and as if you're a pine marten coming along the log.
Okay, anything for you. Ready?
Oh,
Oh, it's going already.
Wow.
Oh, that's brilliant. Look at that. Happy?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Nice.
Well done.
Important testing complete, it was now time for Mr. All My Shirts Are Too Big to set up his trap.
Right, so I've set up my camera trap by this fallen tree that's fallen on to an old stone wall, and the whole scene is just covered in moss. So if you come around here, right, so the composition I'm going for is trying to make the most of the leading lines. So you've got this huge tree just drawing you into the image, and then it curves around to follow the wall. And I think it'll look absolutely brilliant if a little pine marten runs along here and looks at the camera. Yep, head up, big smile. that's so good.
Now all we had to do was leave the area and wait.
Let's go have a beer.
Ooh, whose approach will work best, I wonder? Or work at all? Well, we'll return to that film later to find out.
Yeah, but before then, we have another film to share with you about a certain type of animal that one of us is bloody obsessed with.
Back in season 1, I explained that in the UK, we have 5 species of owl. But occasionally, we do get a visitor from overseas. And now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're looking for a snowy owl.
Snowy owls aren't native to the UK, but occasionally visit from countries like Russia and Greenland. They stand about 60 centimeters tall, with strikingly white plumage and yellow eyes. Males tend to be whiter than the females. The male owl we were looking for had been reported at the top of Ben Macdui, the second highest mountain in the UK. Unsurprisingly, none of our friends wanted to come and help us film there, so we had to make do.
That's the problem with those shots, because it's just us filming this, so we have to set it up, walk over, then run back and get the camera.
Oh. We are in for a really long day. I remember when I first got into photography back in 2013, there was a snowy owl on this very mountain. And I remember not getting to see it and being so disappointed. And now 8 years on, there's been reports of another one up here. Oh man, this would make my year.
We powered on, but hiking the considerable height and distance with heavy bags was starting to take its toll.
There's quite a lot of sweat on your back there, mate.
Anyway, the excursion was worth it, and at an altitude of about 1,000 meters, we spotted a wildlife. Which didn't look like an owl, but we went to investigate anyway. The reason it didn't look like an owl was because it was a reindeer, with 2 friends. So, finding ourselves upwind of them, we thought they'd smell us and scarper. They thought, however, that they'd run towards us instead. And on this terrain, there was no way we could outrun them. So, in response to the rapidly approaching pointy antlers, we promptly shit ourselves.
Turns out they were just massive fans of Gone Feral and wanted to say hello. These friendly, non-native reindeer are part of the only free-ranging herd in Britain. Reindeer are native to places like Scandinavia and Canada, so this Arctic-like terrain up here on the Cairngorm Plateau is ideal for them.
Okay, Harry has now decided that he is Shepherd of the Reindeer. Or Father Christmas. I mean, he's got the figure for it.
Compared to our resident species, these deer are far better equipped for harsher winter conditions, with wide cloven hooves to prevent them sinking in snow and hollow fur to keep them insulated.
Satisfied that this wildlife was definitely not a snowy owl, we continued our search. We hiked right up to the summit, 1.3 kilometers above sea level.
Yes, we are now the second highest people in Scotland. No jokes, please. Well done.
And when the fog cleared, the views were, well, phew. But we couldn't see any owls up here either, so it was time to layer up and go off-piste.
Well, I've been looking forward to this all day. It's time to see what Ed's orienteering skills are like. How are you getting on with that, mate?
Yeah, good. Well, we've just come.
Fortunately, us former Boy Scouts had well and truly earned our orienteering badges.
We need to sort of be heading like that way.
Well, one of us had. And then with our bearing, we set off.
Let's go.
And searched for miles and miles and kilometers until it was time to conclude our mission.
We failed.
Jesus. So we were meant to be going home today. That was the plan anyway, but Ed is so bloody obsessed with owls. He's made us come up here again. The second tallest mountain in the UK. Twice in 2 days. What's wrong with this boy? See, look at this, yesterday. 16 bloody miles.
I knew Harry wanted to see this bird as much as me, but he still found things to complain about.
So if you were naive like us, you'd think that a big white owl would be easy to spot here. But there are loads of these white rocks scattered around the landscape, which makes this so much harder.
But things were starting to look a bit more hopeful than yesterday.
So these droppings here belong to ptarmigan, and they are one of the favourite prey species of the snowy owl, and probably the reason that it's here on this plateau.
See, I reckon those poos are there because what happened was the ptarmigan was here having a nice time, and the snowy owl came in, and the ptarmigan absolutely shit itself. What do you think?
Yeah, probably right.
Feeling motivated, our search continued, bar a quick break to shelter from a passing storm.
Then things suddenly got a bit overwhelming.
Holy f***.
Because this is a bloody snowy owl.
And I remember not getting to see it and being so disappointed. And now 8 years on, there's been reports of another one up here. This would make my year. It's there! I'm actually shaking. Oh my fuck, I missed out on this in 2013. It's like 8 years later. We so nearly went home and we've seen it fucking home.
Once we'd calmed down a bit, we got some quick record shots and moved a bit closer. Unfortunately, the terrain meant we couldn't get as close as we'd have liked, but just being able to sit and see this bird was, well, phew. We only had a few minutes before we had to head back down the mountain. But what a privilege it was to spend those few minutes with this gorgeous bird.
I'm so glad. I thought this would be the first time that we failed on Gone Feral. But no, we've done it! Come on, Harry, give us the old get in. Get in there! Get in! Come on! Okay, I know there's a bit of a running joke that I'm obsessed with owls, but come on, it's a bloody snowy owl. It's just unbelievable. That's the kind of thing that'll stick in my mind for the rest of my life. It does make you wonder, what else is out there? I mean, we trekked for over 20 miles to get a glimpse of that tiny white speck on the side of a mountain, and there are hundreds of mountains here. So how many more snowy owls are there? How many Eurasian eagle owls or other rarities have appeared that we just haven't noticed? And it's those kind of feelings that get you motivated to come out and explore. I absolutely love it. Right, so early on in that film, I mentioned that nobody wanted to come and help us film it, which is fair enough considering it was a bit overly ambitious, and we said, look, we're going to go up a mountain and maybe try and see a little bird, and we need to take all our camera equipment with us.
You can't really blame.
No, not at all. But since we did manage to find it, a couple of people have come back expressing their regret.
Isn't that right, Scott? Honestly though, that was probably my favourite ever episode and encounter that we've had.
That was utterly brilliant. I mean, looking back, it was a bit naive of us. Like, yeah, we'll find that owl, we'll find it. Then we turned up on the mountain and think, absolutely no way in hell we're ever going to find it.
And we found it. We found it.
Actually found it.
I can believe it.
I know, we lucked out with the weather and we more than lucked out seeing it flying across that valley. Absolutely brilliant.
So good.
Anyway, now we need to get back to our camera trapping project to see if either of us managed to have any luck getting pine martins.
After leaving our camera traps alone in the woods for a few days, we returned to see if they'd managed to capture anything.
Your legs are longer than mine, this isn't fair. I'm absolutely buzzing, and it's all still there. No way. My shoddy setup worked.
Although the gear was fine, had it managed to get Harry any decent shots?
There's not a lot on there. That's it, there's nothing on there, man. No triggers. Damn. That's really annoying because it's still triggering.
Oh no, poor Harry. Anyway, let's check my trap.
Oh, it's not triggering.
Unless the batteries run out. Oh, it's run out of battery.
No way.
After powering up the camera with a spare battery, I was treated to
Nothing.
bugger. But this is all part of the risk of trying to photograph
Bloody animals. Bloody wildlife.
It's a shame.
We persevered with our project though, and this time we got off to a good start.
Look at that. That is undoubtedly pine marten dropping. They're rowan berries.
Harry, why don't you taste it to see how fresh it is?
I mean, be my
Go
guest, mate. I'm not tasting that. Yes.
nice.
Okay, so triggering. It's a good sign.
Nothing.
Feeling hopeful after finding the marten poo, it was now time to see what 6 days of waiting had produced.
Ed, there's a pine marten on there. Yes! Oh, there's a pine marten on there.
Oh, look at that.
There's a pine marten! Come on!
There'd been multiple triggers, giving me a nice variety of shots to choose from. I was over the moon. Of all the triggers, this one is my favourite. I just love its curious pose and how the log highlights how small the martin really is. What a result!
Spurred on by Harry's success, we went to see what kind of results I'd managed to get.
Oh, no way. You got a vole. You got a vole. It's not a pine martin. But...
This isn't a pine martin. It's a cheeky little vole who wishes to remain anonymous. Never mind. At least I might have one more shot at getting some kind of success.
Unfortunately, Harry's had to go back down south because clearly he's a less devoted photographer than me. But I'm up here for a few more days, so I'm going to leave this trap here. Now, we know the pine martins are in the area because we've seen them on the trail cams and they've triggered Harry's trap up there, but we don't know if they come to this exact area. But the thing is, this is wildlife photography, so you need to take risks, and I really, really like the composition I've found. So if it pays off, brilliant. If not, then at least I know I tried. Oh, come on, pine martins. Please come through this way. Please.
As I made my way over to the trap, I became increasingly aware that if I wasn't successful, then not only would I not have any pine martin photos, but Harry would. The stakes were high on this one.
Oh my God.
Ah, take that, Harry. I can photograph pine martins too.
You can tell that this pine martin is a youngster because its tail is quite tight, like a cat's tail. And as it gets older, that tail will get bushier and bushier. So you can tell that this little one is still quite young.
After collecting the gear and heading back to the car, the only thing left to do was to call Harry.
Hello?
Yo. Came to check the trap.
Yeah, guess what?
Triggers?
Loads of triggers in daylight. You can see all the environment and the pine martin. It looks amazing.
Are you f***ing kidding me? You weren't gonna get any. Why did you have to frigging get triggers? How many triggers did you get?
Oh, a couple of hundred. Anyway, man, I'm gonna go because I want to go and get them on the computer and see if they're okay.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, see you in a bit. Bye bye, ciao. Oh, I'm so happy. I just hope they're better than Harry's. Oh, so good.
And here it is, my daylight pine martin photo. Was it worth 10 days? Absolutely it was.
Genuinely though, right, I'm so happy that you got those shots. I half expected you to get absolutely nothing.
Really? Is there not a small part of you that wishes that you got some and I didn't?
Well, obviously.
I think we did get very lucky though, looking back again. We both got triggers and we both got half decent photos where it's in focus and you're not cutting off bits of the animal or anything like that. Well done.
And you. Next week, Ed learns to rhyme.
Holy moly! And Harry sees something that was brilliant to watch.
Brilliant to watch. See you then. Sorry. Honestly, mate. This is too much. Okay. It's very nice. It's very nice.
That was horrible. I felt that rumble through.